Ladies and Germans, how you all doing? This is Con Ulrich.
This is Rangru. Hello, hello, hello.
And folks, today we're on that most difficult of maps to say, Tali Ihantala. Today with a little bit of the monthly tourney. Rang, who do we have?
We have some rather familiar faces on this channel. On the left-hand side in the blue, we have FaridRommel playing Bevan Band Kessel with a Maverick income. Right-hand side in red, we have Insha playing at 97th Guard Stelkovy, also with a Maverick income.
You know, because I grew up in the realm of Star Wars that didn't have the sequels, and barely had the prequels for that matter, I can't help but feel like the headcanon for this, that the Kessel division is just a bunch of convicts.
Mm-hmm.
But it's certainly a really, really interesting kind of group. We don't see them very often. So I'm quite excited to see all the Stews and the Stugs and the many other types of Stugs. And, oh, are there Stugs over there?
Wow, Stugs? No way.
Exactly. So, no, it's just a fascinating thing for me. I'm looking forward to it. 97th we've seen before, though. I mean, this is standard Soviet play. Yeah,
pretty standard stuff. And just looking at this opener here, really nothing all that crazy. Got one Tanko Destiny key just going right down the road. He really wants to get to the other side, and he's dodging a lot of fire to do it.
and luckily for the Tanko Destiny, that Pack 40 was like, you have stopped, therefore you are not going to die. So, unfortunately, also, the Schwarze are far more concerned by shooting those Maxims in the far distance.
Yeah, I believe it's a minimum engagement distance, so actually, they do get stunned, Joe. It's very close for Tankos to actually get into the town. It feels like he could use one or two more troops. We've got like a second troop of like Tankos and flamethrower troops trying to get through the forest, but, well, you know, it's his castle. They got some damn good infantry between the Brandenburgs and those Hungarian flame troops.
Even their disheartened troops are actually surprisingly good.
Yeah, and not bad at all.
Yeah, it's kind of funny that that's the highest praise you can give. Well, they're not bad, so therefore they must be good. Early IL-2 run to the northern side, perfect idea going after that pack, takes it out, which is actually a pretty devastating loss because Kessel doesn't really get all that much in the way of anti-tank, or at least this deck didn't bring that much.
Yeah, that's definitely going to be an issue going forward, especially on the southern side of this map, as it is pretty much open field for heavy tanks, and 97th has a few IS-2s available, so, well, Farid's really going to have to make, I'm going to guess, the most out of his air power to try and negate your Stalinium.
I would think so. For right now, BF-109 actually makes a vague run at the IL-2 and then bolts, so not... Yeah, that was a curious decision there, for sure. Interestingly, I mean, we don't talk about enough of Tali Ihantala. If you had any kind of Schwimmenwagens or, you know, DDs or things like that, this map is amazing because it opens up the entire field. But now, the fact that we have just crazy choke points, I actually don't know who wins an attrition fight here. Do you think it's the Soviets? Do you think it's actually going to be looking over here at Kessel?
Oh, that's actually kind of difficult. I think Soviets, if they can utilize heavy tanks effectively, we've seen time and again just effective use of fire support. And honestly, up north is a pretty good example of this, as Insha's using his infantry backed up with machine guns and support guns extremely effectively. Farid also has a similar setup as those IG-18s, but Insha just has much better positioning right now with how his troops are spread up in this attack. He's got fire support in the northern forest, fire support in the southern forest, and he's trying to make the big push through the central forest strip. He probably could use a little bit more infantry, as the gun DPs aren't exactly CQC troops, but it's just the terrain is very favorable here for Insha.
Not for nothing, and I realize that the IG-18 and the 76-2 are roughly the same thing, and there's a little more penetration over here for one versus the other, and the accuracy is moderately different, but I feel like the IG-18 is really not that good in this kind of situation. As far as, you know, on-map kind of support guns go, I feel like I'd rather have tube artillery as opposed to those.
Yeah, especially mortars, and you do have access to the half-track mortars, which on this map, especially right now of how things are going, would be quite useful. I'm seeing another IL-2 run. He's just going to go in hot in this IG-18 and blow it up.
Exactly.
He blows it up.
But with two BF-109s, I don't really know whether or not the IL-2 is actually going to die.
Yeah, you'd think the 109 to be able to shoot him down. They have two self-entry as well. There we go.
And he's going for a drink. No, he actually kills one of the guys from the Flame Troop squad. I know it's
Take
so
a guy down
morbid.
with him.
Yeah, exactly. I know it's so morbid, but at the same time, I actually kind of love that little bit of interaction when that goes on. Down south, we are seeing potentially, just the barest potential of some aggressive play from Kessel. Oh, never mind. They're moving to the edge of the forest and chilling. Okay. All right. That makes sense.
Yeah,
But
just big chilling.
please. Yeah, just kind of chilling, hanging, doing their thing. I'm wondering right now, we are seeing a couple of guard squads. I'm wondering if we're going to see a southern edge map crawl. Because to look at it, they're being dropped off in that town, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Unless they're trying to deploy and then come south and then just hug the edge. Get around that lake.
Usually seeing like some sort of sneaky play, mainly if recon troops can actually work. I believe that the guard DPs do have those PTRD rifles, so he might be trying to set them up on a road to, get some transport snipes on the incoming units.
But that's the thing too, is that if you can get recons or you can do just flat infantry, I know there's two schools of thought here. You must just put in the sneaky kind of partisans behind the front lines. I don't know. I feel like the DP is probably going to cause a greater reaction from your opponent.
Yeah.
You're up 13-11 anyway.
Yeah, it's a pretty even Steven so far. I mean, Insha's slowly, he's getting good trades up north here. Like, just look all the way far north. He's managed to keep most of his units alive. It's mainly just infantry and whatnot. Farid does have a few tanks here now, and he's definitely bringing out more of those Panzer IVs, which are starting to stemmy the tide a bit. But, yeah, I mean, in matches like this, when, it's 13-11 and both sides are Maverick, just that small point advantage can really give you the edge later on.
True. Exactly. Now, you said about moving the heavy tanks across that kind of south-central position here. Kessel doesn't have that much in the way of that. Is that just a moment that we're going to be thinking to ourselves, oh shoot, he doesn't win in B, it's all over?
You just need to use the air power effectively to bomb it. That's going to be the main thing otherwise IS-2's will be a pain in the ass. So probably for free, sticking up north and just keeping their attacks here is going to be helpful.
Oh, absolutely. I think even more so, though, thinking that this is probably one of the rare times that a late game C vehicle card is actually being utilized. Actually, if you look at Kessel's deck, there are 12 potential strokes that can be brought on in, and he doesn't have to wait for 2 ticks of income. That is a heavy investment to be sure, but still being able to bring in a viable fighting platform is actually be really, really good in the late game.
Yeah, and Stokes are just fantastic tanks.
Absolutely.
They're very goddamn cost effective, especially in these 1v1s.
Well, we actually see some super tight lines over here from Farid as he's pounding the guards to the northern side between the Pigrens and now P4, like being like, oh yes, I happen to see you over there, sir, and playing duck hunt with those Soviets.
Yeah, we've kind of gotten to the point here of Insha's push where he's a little bit choke pointed because he does have the flag under control very far north, but if you want to push up any further, where a lot of his troops are very much bunched up in that forest, and ideally, he'd probably want to try and spread them out a bit, and then hit the next set of forests from multiple angles rather than just big blob.
Now, checking back in those guard DPs, one of them got dropped off here in the center. One's still kind of hanging back, and maybe just kind of chilling for the moment. But they are going to go and engage, I'm not even going to attempt to say it, the Kessel disheartened squad that is right there. And I'm wondering, P4, yep, there's already a P4 coming down to that area. So it's going to be 14-10 for probably the next 30, maybe 30 or 40 seconds until that P4 gets online.
Yeah, it's going to be... Making pushes here, it's always so critical of being able to get a good infantry force within just the edge of the forest. Because if you can dig in here, you deny enemy anti-tank from sniping in your reinforcements, hopefully. And yeah, and you can just keep piling in. It's pretty much the beachhead you need to continue your southern play.
What was the map back in SD44, the heavily wooded map over here? I can't recall off the top of my head right about now. It's like the Robin Hood map.
Omaha?
I don't think it was Omaha. I don't think it was a beach. Maybe I'm incorrect, though. But it was so heavily hedge-rowed, exactly like this in the south. I'm trying to think about, is there anything on the opposite side to kind of deal with this? And the best I can tell you is he does have that forward artillery observer, the FAO, with the 149.
Oh, yeah, it'd be a very good call.
Yeah, because right now he's going to lose all of his infantry here in just about, call it 20 seconds.
Yeah. If he does bring out some more quality infantry, like those Hungarian flame troops, they can also clear it out quite easily. Because that enters infantry is nothing... It's a standard Soviet play-by-play of guards, Sapiris, and Strafnikis, which are decent, but they're just decent.
Well, that's the curious thing, isn't it? Is that we actually haven't seen any tanks. Oh, there's the IS-1 coming in right now. Of course, speak of the devil and Stalin shall appear. But it's very, very interesting to see when vehicles get brought in and when they kind of hang back. And this is certainly kind of a situation where 97 doesn't need to bring anything.
Yeah, I think he's going to be trying to bring it to zone out, just the central portion, especially how IG-18 is going. At close quarters, it's I say a bit risky against Panzer IV, but the IS-1 does have quite a bit of armor here. But you're seeing Farid, yeah, he's bringing in those reinforcements down south. That Panzer IV might be getting a bit too close here. Going to be taking some side shots to the PTRD, but yeah, there we go. Critical hits. You can always trust an anti-tank rifles to do that.
Well, and I think, though, what he's trying to do is unmask it. And now the IS-1, though, this is going to be the issue. The IS-1 can start to engage that P4.
Yeah. And it's going to be forcing him back, and this is going to buy Insha all-important time to get more reinforcements here. And it's got, another T-34 being brought in.
He's also getting a rather beaky kind of extension over here into the German lines as well. You see right now, he's up 14-10. It was 15-9 a second ago, and I think it's actually starting to beat because the northern side, kind of starved of strength, is starting to really feel it.
Yeah, we do see a mortar half-track being utilized quite effectively for some counter-battery play against some anti-aircraft batteries. But Insha's very much just dug in. He's invested in some anti-tank and some more heavy support equipment, especially anti-aircraft guns. And I think he's just pretty content to not overextend, just hold the defensive line here, and then just try to make something happen down south.
Exactly. Northern side, we actually, one of the Brandenburgers gets absolutely pounded by IL-2 strikes, but now ground crews and 2 more Bf-109s. This might be the second kill, and there is not much air power over here for the 97th, so maybe not extending. Okay.
It's actually quite funny seeing Farid invest a decent amount in anti-air. I mean, he's buying another Flak 41. Oh, Run 09 does go down. Because in the end of the day, I mean, he doesn't know it. Insha only has 3 planes in his deck. Once he shoots down those 3 planes, those anti-aircraft pieces are gonna have to get a bit more close quarters to get their value.
That's the thing, isn't it? So depending on where he sights them, open ground, not open ground, he can control an awful lot by sticking maybe in the trees to the north of IG-18 that's got the no more heat shells. That's not a terrible idea, actually. Kind of put down some firepower, use it to support moving into the town on the opposite side. So I mean, there's ways around it. There's ways to kind of be thrifty and efficient with your kind of material here. It's not going to be easy, but there's a possibility for sure.
Indeed, and we're all seeing Farid here trying to make that push happen in these northern central town position. He's got some of his infantry bunched up here, but he doesn't have as big enough force that he needs. He does have the Panzers, which is decent, but he needs more recon, he needs more screening infantry, which is being brought in, because you're going to need to make a big push to capture this town. It's a hard town to capture, because you have defensive fire from the forest from the south, defensive fire from the forest from the north. There's a lot of angles you have to worry about, and on top of that, it's in a choke point.
And that's the kind of interesting thing, isn't it? Is that you can see right now the SG-43 forces a disembark on 2 squads about, a half a kilometer from short of where they needed to be. And that's a consistent thing here, but unless you bring in... There's the FAO. Okay. There's one of them anyway. To me, at this point, northern side, keep it in the trees, pound the front line where all that kind of tube artillery is going right now.
Yeah, you really need a shock and awe tactics of just clear out the position with heavy artillery and then rush on through with, the 1 Panzer now and the 2 Panzers actually, and the rest of his infantry.
Yes, but the problem is that so often, shock and awe becomes shockingly awful very, very quickly. So I'm hoping that's not going to be the case here today. I want a nice kind of solid, pleasing kaboom.
Then just taking a look back down south at yeah, actually, Insha's still doing a very good job of securing the tree line. This is still some infantry he needs to clear up, but he still has that bridgehead. Yeah, IS-1 is pretty much acting as rear line support to make sure stuff can cross to the other side without getting too interrupted. No, the Oskin hero unit being deployed more towards the center here. More, once again, a defensive location.
Yeah, Alex says, I'm not needed here for right now. And actually kind of wondering, is the Stu 42 thinking about engaging the IS-1? Because that would be a terrible idea.
Yes. Would not be smart. You need to get a little bit closer, I believe, to actually get for those heat shells to hit.
Also, 149 does drop the artillery down almost exactly where I would have placed it myself. Maybe a little bit, touch more to the northwest, but that's just me.
But it seems very much a defensive artillery barrage, Rich. At this point with Maverick, I'd really like to see him using a bit more of an offensive manner. Just so, I mean, it's going to buy him time to make sure a big push into that farmstead doesn't happen. And I guess for him, all he needs to do up north is make sure the farm is under his control. Because there's really no other flags within reasonable distance from that location which one can take.
Unfortunately, the clustering of those shells has not been the best. A couple of those shells just now was actually rather nice. But the other thing, too, is that if he's able to take out the Converti, he actually might be in a good position to carry that.
Mm-hmm.
Losing that kind of accumulated, evidence, that accumulated experience, could just really serve him well in the long term. Just for right now, though, it's not looking great for Farid.
No, he's really just been stalled this entire time. Insha's definitely been a run leading the momentum, definitely trading much more effectively. And, with these Maverick and Maverick games, as we get closer and closer to C phase, I think it's going to be very hard for Farid, especially on this map, to reverse the momentum.
Yeah, I guess as I was thinking about this here, he's a little bit less Rommel, a little bit more Auken-like. which I realize sounds horrible, but I think my point being is that against a dug-in defender, you actually have to be a little more audacious. You actually do have to kind of, like you said, set that tempo. You can't allow the game to kind of come to you. You have to take it to them. And I think sometimes, and we've seen this happen with Farid before, is that very, very talented at kind of deflecting and mitigating the worst of a push, but sometimes has trouble kind of coming back over onto the opposite side of that. You can see right now, for example, the P4s placed very defensively, getting picked off at distance by T-3485, being engaged by the IS-1s. And generally, if he has the territory, that's wonderful. But when you've got to be more aggressive behind that instead, you've got to go and be attacking. Maybe it's the division thing, maybe it's just, bad luck, but I think that's where we tend to see the biggest issues, I think, with Farid as a player.
I think in this instance, it's mainly just terrain.
Yeah.
Like Insha's units are just located in very good locations. I got T-34, perfect sight line to pretty much deny reinforcements to any continual pushes to try to take out town. And also Insha's defenses are pretty, decently layered, so to speak. He does have good coverage of machine guns, infantry, support weaponry, etc. I mean, he has an IS-2 up north here, which has just been chilling. He's not doing anything, but I'm fairly certain he's just a firefighter unit to go and put out any fires where the Axis try to start them. By, using firepower of a 122mm gun,
Exactly.
Not like fire with fire.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And there's only one way to kind of cook sauerkraut, and that's over an open flame. So I've heard, anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But there's also a 132. I think that, for me, is more the firefighter. I'm going to drop a ton of Sturm and Drangs and firepower, some real big kaboom, just to really freak you out and stop any kind of push that could be happening.
Yeah. We're seeing a pretty huge injection here from Farid in the center of tanks, Dukes, Stugs, Marauders, all of those things. But I don't know what he's trying to do with them. He's got them pretty spread out. I think it's more of once again, a defensive measure to zone out the southern central portion of the map. And actually, yeah, he's got those 2 Stug 2s just north of the lake, and that's a very good position for him. If he can maintain those Stugs, bring in the infantry, such as Brandenburgers, he can actually clear out this area of the map and get it under his control.
Unfortunately, IS-2 announces its presence by taking out one of those Brandenburgers as we speak. Next barrage. This is a barrage that cost the FAO his life. But if it's able to take out, let's say, the 37mm and maybe the ZIS-2, I think there's a chance to come back into this. if for no other way than using Ju-88, so they're Flock of Wolves. Actually, I think the Ju-88 might be the way to go with this one.
No, it's a pretty good artillery position because it does clear out a lot of fire support, mainly for the more central push into the town.
Mm-hmm.
But once again, he doesn't have too much immediately to follow through, and of course, there's also the issue of the forest south of the town is still providing a massive part of resistance here for Insha, for Farid.
No, for Insha.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're absolutely... Yeah, and Insha's at the defensive position right there. You're absolutely correct. I was trying to think about where... Oh, no, Oskinen pulls back way down south. The IS-1 goes way down south. There's that Flak 41 you were talking about. Kind of curious why the heck and how the heck they can kind of do... be useful now. And we're starting to see that actually happen a little bit. Interdicting some kind of material. And that's the same kind of stuff. He's starting to be able to use the same kind of fascination, same kind of approach here as we had seen previously. Ju-88 going after those troops in the forest plasters them, and that's actually back to a 12-12. So we're seeing bits of life here.
Yeah, Farid has been able to pretty effectively now re-secure Southern Forest. And now the flags, especially considering his deck with the lack of anti-tank, those Flak 41s are gonna have to take on that role. It's very North Africa, very, very Rommel of him, you could say.
That's true. Trying to see, second IS-2 gets brought in. We have a 122 being brought onto the map. That's at a counter battery. And there are 3 squads to the southern town. You see them, 2 Superiors and an Altamachiki. So my guess is we're not seeing any kind of rotation. There's the 132 is in the center. Curious. I'm trying to think what this 132 is going to be doing. The troops are too close for any kind of, let's say, close artillery support. So I'm trying to figure out where the heck you might be kind of encouraged to place that kind of firepower.
I'm guessing for like counter battery against the Flak 41s. I mean, that is very close. I mean, that is actually quite insanely close.
Yes.
But it doesn't have radio, so he's doing that so he can get the most accurate counter battery shots by pretty much parking right in front of the thing he wants to blow up.
Well, there's that too, but I can't help but feel like he's also getting, and I know this sounds silly to be saying he's getting experience in the combat. Actually, that's a question. Wait a second. What the heck does he get as veterancy? I don't think I've ever looked at the files for that.
For
FAO. FAOs, do they actually get benefits from that?
Oh, like off-map artillery.
Yeah.
No. I think maybe... I don't believe so, because the unit is on the map, but the artillery is... well, technically all the way off the map. So you need a very big commander range for those guys to get the benefit. Unless it's osmosis through the radio.
So that's always a possibility.
Mm-hmm.
BF-109s, ME-210s, of course, kind of getting hammered by just all the ground fire. And the IL-2s, of course, come in, not a big deal. BF-109 does go down. Question is, will he take out his own anti-air position in the meantime? No, I think he's going for a drink. Yep, drink it is. And I just went down south just to see the Stug 3 go down over here from the IS-1 Combrati. This is... I'm not saying it's even. I'm not saying it's canted to one side. This is just very, very strange as far as this game goes.
Yeah, oh, we got the big off-map being brought on in. Let's see what it does. Does a lot. All over the place.
Yeah, very, very wide area of effect on this one. A lot of dead zones, though, too.
Mm-hmm. Mainly just, I think, at his point, especially for Insha, he can afford to be using his off-map in a purely defensive fashion, because the time is on his side, so to speak. So it's just buying him time. It's completely shut down that push, and that's a pretty, built-up force from Farid to make that push happen. But, alas, apart from the Stu, who is very much committed to the cause, and going to pay for it with his life, it seems, it's going to get shut down.
Shockingly enough, the Stug 3. I was like, the Stug 3 is still alive. How is he? Okay, never mind. He's not alive anymore. Fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
But it kind of goes along with this whole kind of idea here, where we continue to see. Oh wait, ooh, the 76-2. Actually, wait, where'd that 122 go? He's up near the front line. That's a brave decision.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's taken a note from his 76mm comrades.
Sure, that's one way to put it. I feel like the 122 has enough kind of raw damage and raw kind of shock value that you might as well keep it back a little bit further. But hey, I suppose if at this point right now you're ahead, you might as well just be aggressive with it, right?
Mm-hmm. But I think also just throughout this match, Insha's just, like I said once again, such a good job with the position of his units, especially his heavy tanks, because it's very tempting with IS-2s especially, the 1944 ones as well, the massive frontal armor. You kind of want to just have it on the front line. You want it to be the tank. But, in the classic Steel Division fashion, heavy tanks, you don't want him to be tanky. You want the threat of him being tanky to be the tank. It's the bluff threat, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
And he's keeping him back, using the range to his advantage. And because he's just using him in defensive manner, he's not, well, apart from right now against his Stug, not really willing to get in too close, unless, in this case, the opportunity arises and everything's been killed in the off-map.
Well, that was the other thing, too, is that there were a couple of those flak guns, and the flak guns have been killed. There were a couple of Shugs, but the Shugs have been killed. There used to be territory over there, now we have the surface of the moon instead. And I can't help but be reminded that the 132 over here felt more like the Commandos arty party back in SD1. Yikes, also Pack 40 going down. That is a steep loss at this point.
Yeah, he really can't be affording those. And once again, like all of his heavy tanks are still alive in a match like this. Just in C phase, they become like worth their weight in gold.
And that is worth quite a bit when you think about how heavy these things are.
Mm-hmm. God, man, a tank made completely out of gold. I think that'd be a perfect idea for Rommel.
He wouldn't have the gas to run it.
Mm-hmm.
But down south, the IS-1 continues its reign of terror. This thing is actually probably... No, I would have thought he would have been a little bit lower on shells at this point. But no, he is still ready and raring to go for right about now. I feel like we're going to be seeing the knockout blow coming pretty soon here, coming from Insha. He's at 14-10, so he's digging in. He's going to have some waffling back and forth like you see over there in the center part of the line. As Automatiki squads kind of rush forward, get axed, come back. Maybe if Strafniki tries to sneak in and get to that couple of surviving buildings in that town. So, all the same, though, he's got the advantage that he needs. He's got the territory that he needs as well.
Yeah, especially being able to make that big push into the center. That's a pretty huge play, especially as late in the match. And it really just shows how well Insha's been trading, being able to just pretty easily get up here. Oh, he is getting pushed back a bit, but it's, Strafniki injection of troops should be enough. There's still a decent fire support base back here from Rommel, but he doesn't have the frontline units, the infantry, the boots on the ground to really lead any charges.
And as much as we could malign the DP, when you have three of them to a single, oh my gosh, what's the name of that thing again? I guess the 24 milled Madsen, then yeah, at that point it's not going to be great.
Indeed. I think we can take us to a times 2 at 28:30.
I was actually thinking the same thing, sir. Great minds and all of that. And times 2. And you see right about now, we are to 15-9. So Farid himself has played it very well. I think at the same time we talked about maybe what could have gone a little bit better. I think maybe what Insha had done really, really well over here in the initial kind of breaking out. And part of that too is, I did appreciate seeing a lot more death and destruction to the northern side. I would have liked to have seen even a tease down south, because there's that one squad over here, Dudas, who's just kind of hanging on out, and everyone else just been, working.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, I think Insha just managed to funnel Freed into the effective points of the map rather effectively, and especially with an IS-2 division against a division which doesn't have heavy anti-tank, it's going to be very hard for Freed to do anything really in the southern half of the map at all. He'd have to make something happen up north, and Insha managed to shut that down very easily.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? The Stews are desperately trying to go and let's say, put down discouragement, but this is more of a moment that for me would be saying, okay, you know what? Fighting withdrawal, guys, we've lost today, we'll come back tomorrow, we can try it again. Yep, and there we go. We do see the tap, 30 minutes, 54 seconds, and yeah, the loss is 2-1.
Yeah, that feels pretty much about right for that match. Insha's just trading really bloody good, yeah. And looking at the kills,
The Camarati did pretty well.
yeah. IS1. Oskin did pretty good as well. Quite good for a hero unit. Did he survive the entire match, Oskin?
He did.
Wow.
He did.
That's rare for a hero unit. Good job.
And the different boat over here, 5 kills and a lot of suppression. So, really well done.
Mm-hmm.
Opposite side, unfortunately, as we might expect from a 2-to-1 kill, not that impressive. Nobody really really stepping up and kind of, swinging Heil, shall we say. But I think you pretty much summed it up pretty well at the closing moments of the match. Do you have anything else you want to add there, sir?
No, not really.
Folks, in that case, then, until the next time, I'm Con Ulrich.
I'm Rangru. Take it easy.